So hello everybody, welcome back. Um, Grab your coffee and enjoy this video, and if you find it helpful, please remember to share the channel. And if you wanted to share a coffee with me, you can do that in the link down below. Thank you very much. And if you wanted to help me out, you can also send an Amazon gift card in the email down below. And without further notice, we are going to talk about food. And this one is a reproduction list. So the most basic topics about food are in the beginning of the reproduction list. Now we are moving forward from, the details on what to do, what not to do, what to expect, what to not to expect, and things like that, to more of the idea of how to handle this topic in other terms, which is the following. So, food is not just food. I have mentioned this before. Food, it will follow the elemental of money. Food is like the shadow of the elemental of money. So wherever there is money, there is always going to be food. And the reason for that is because there is always people that will work as a mercenary, bringing things from the black market, and even counterfeiting food, and it's going to be like a political issue. Food is not just you producing food and consuming it. Is food the topic in the political aspect that you probably want to be concerned about? And the reason for that is because when we have famines, it's not because we don't have food. It's because we have a political problem, or we have a geographical problem, or we have an environmental problem. And by the way, we have the three of them. We are facing problems with the soil that is needed to produce the food. We have problems with the minerals and the things that are needed to make the food nutritious and stuff like that. We have problems with the farmers. We have problems with the water. We have problems, with a lot of things. So I'm going to try to talk to you about, first of all, the perspective of what people will go through. So then some of the problems that certain countries are facing, and then general perspective in terms of what to expect, and you can prepare according to the place that you're in, because different countries will go to different kinds of problems in terms of food. So so let's see. Let's start by the most basic one, which is the problem in terms of the countries. So countries like China will have a huge problems, huge, like beyond measure kind of problem in terms of food, because they do not have water to produce this. The reason for that is that their sweet water, as in potable water, is contaminated. Now, in Latin countries, that is also truth. However, Latin countries, they don't have, we have pollution in water. But even though we have pollution in water, we still have that problem is not in the magnitude that China has it, because we don't produce a lot of chemicals that will make the water totally poison or totally useless. I mean, it's kind of like you have brown water, meaning, okay, it might be contaminated, so it might have bacteria and algae and things that are very weird, like parasites and stuff like that. But the water might not be like poison to the point that you cannot use it for agriculture, because when you contaminate water, there are two main components in contaminated water. There is the one that is organic and the one that is inorganic. So the one that is organic, that means that the water, you shouldn't drink it because it has, like I said, parasites, poop from animals, dead animals and stuff like that. And it may or may not contain some sort of metals and stuff, but which is very, very bad for your health in the long term. But it is still usable. And so what people will do is that people will use that water to water the crops and things like that, and then every 6 months, every time that you go to the doctor, especially with kids, the very first thing that people will do is tell you in the Latin countries is, okay, you have parasites, so just drink and anti-parasite kind of medicine, and then you should be fine, and then we continue with the cycle of the water being contaminated, and we have a problem because of that. However, the water that they have contaminated in China is entirely different, because it's contaminated with chemicals. When you're dealing with water contaminated with chemicals, if you drink it, you may actually die. Like, maybe not even immediately, but you are definitely, it's like you drinking, I don't know, let's say something that is very, very bad for you. Like, let's say you mix alcohol with bleach, and then you put soap, and then you add kerosene, and then you add something like that, and then you are trying to use that water to grow plants. Of course, the plants will die, because this is too much chemicals and too many things that are too toxic. So the level of toxicity that they have is becoming nearly to the limit in terms of water, which is why they're probably not going to be able to produce any kind of food for their people. That's why they are buying land, and they are investing in all kinds of countries to secure a new Silk Route so that they can import all of the food for their people, because they cannot fix the problem that they have with the water. Fixing a problem that they have with the water will be too expensive, it will be too time consuming, and maybe even undoable. I mean, I don't know how you will fix a problem this kind of magnitude. You will need a lot of engineers and a lot of people that will have to be 100% dedicated to this, and I do not even know if that is possible. So if you have problems like this, then you are going to need some sort of food supply, and that's why they're doing it through other countries, and that's why there is going to be a conflict very soon in terms of food when this starts to happen. Because let's say that there is a famine in Africa, and then you have a huge land in this continent that is producing food, and yet instead of being given to the Africans, it is being exported to China. And then the African leaders do not have a choice, because they owe too much money to China, or because the land is actually Chinese. And for all I know, the land is so big that they may even claim that it's a new country altogether. And so now it's going to be a mess because of that in several countries, and that includes all the land that they have bought in the US, in Australia, and all the other countries. And the reason being that the government cannot allow their citizens to be hungry. Because every time that you have hungry citizens, then you have a possible overthrow of your power. And then that, is just unacceptable for political leaders. And this is why, it will play a role into food. Japan doesn't have the same problem. Japan has other kinds of issues, in which the main thing is that they don't have enough people to produce agriculture to sustain their population, because they are in the majority of the Japanese people are now elderly, and they don't even have kids anymore, meaning the replacement generation is just too little. And nobody is working the land anymore in Japan. And more than half of the food that they are consuming right now is actually imported. And so if there is a problem in terms of the Japanese yen, and no one is taking the Japanese yen or the currency that they will be using for trading, let's say that all of the Japanese yen is worth nothing in the international market anymore, and then they will need US dollars, but that might, compromise, the price of the US dollar in terms of other currencies and stuff like that. So that is also going to be a political nightmare, because if you have different prices for the Japanese yen versus versus the US dollar versus the euro, and if they are importing the food mostly from China or Taiwan or whatever country they are importing the food from, then this is going to be a nightmare. And so the Japanese people might be facing a famine because of that, because of the fact that they don't have people that is producing the food anymore, and now they have to have it imported. And so if you have to understand what country you are in order for you to understand what will be the major political role that will be played, so that you can understand what to expect and you can prepare better. And so there is another issue here, and then I'm going to become a little bit religious. So do you believe in the Bible? Don't answer that. I'm just saying something that is food for thought. Whether you believe the Bible or not is an interesting theory, and I'm going to present it as that, because I don't want to tell people what to believe or what not to believe. But there is books. There are books in the Bible, obviously, and there is one called Apocalypse. In that, there is 4 horsemen that are represented of the 4 tragedies that will be coming to men. One of them is famine, but the point is that you are going to go through hell. That means that you are going to face these 4 major things. One way or another, in maybe you will face famine, but you will not face war, or maybe you will face war and then you will not face, the diseases and death and things like that. So you will face the 4 of them, but you will not face them all together and all like major. You're probably going to face them one way or another, and it's not going to be the same for each country, because like I said, each country has different kinds of political nightmares. And so anyway, the point about this one is that you are going to face 4 major problems, and after that, there will be a heaven. Now, the way that the Bible describes this heaven is the following. It says that every land, that means, every country, every land will produce food like in an optimal level. Now, if you're producing food in an optimal level, and then it clearly says that people can eat, all year round, that also means the end of seasoning. Seasons. So, because, let's say that you right now live in Canada and then you are in winter. Do you think that you can just go outside in the middle of winter in Canada and have fruit from a tree? Not likely, right? So, if you're producing food optimal, that means no freezing temperatures, and that also means no deserts. So those 2 extremes will have to meet, and then there will be a climate disaster in several countries because of this. Because you are turning something that is suboptimal for whatever reason, you're turning it into optimal. And the optimal means no season. It also means more light. It also means more water. And it also means a lot of things, depending upon where you are. This climate thing will be different for Canada than it is, for example, for a country like Iran or maybe Saudi Arabia. Because they're optimal, like you going outside and being able to eat anything all year round with no problem whatsoever, being optimal. That's kind of like what is happening right now. All of Greenland is being unfrozen, and it is going to be a green land to produce food. Now, if food is a shadow of the elemental, and this thing is no longer going to be a shadow of the elemental because everybody will have access to food, that also means a political heaven kind of a deal. Because now politicians will not be able to play with food, because people have access to that. And if nobody can say to you, hey, if you don't work, you're not going to eat, then what do you think is going to happen? Or you don't have to do this because then, you still can eat, you still can have, a place in your house or whatever. What do you think is going to happen in this heaven in terms of the political party and the system per se, and how your food is related to your prosperity and things like that? That means that the prosperity level for each country will depend upon their citizens per se. And it also means that there will be no more famines because you have optimal and because you don't have a political nightmare anymore. And so now in the Bible, it also says that you need to focus on that. You need to focus on heaven. Because if you are going to go through hell, then you want to just go through it. You do not want to stay there, in whether it is mentally, emotionally, socially, or economically, or whatever. You don't want to mingle in there. Okay? It's kind of like, you think about this, you going through a cemetery and then going to a prison and then going to a hospital and then you are going to your new perfect dreamed house. But you have to go through all these three places and then you can get to your dreamed house, whatever your dream house is. If you're thinking, oh my God, if I have to go through the cemetery, I'm going to stop, I can't, I'm going to panic, I can't do it, or things like that, then you are definitely going to go into a mental thing, into a mental state that will make your situation even harder than it is already. And you will need your strength to help other people realize that is good news, because you can see heaven after this. That means that whatever famine we're going to go through, it will be over, because then each country will be optimal. And if you are in optimal condition and then you are free from the system to produce and eat whatever you want, whenever you want it, what does that mean for you? If you were able to do that right now, how is that looking out for you? What does that mean for you? And most importantly, if you believe that this is truth, then you're a politician and you know that these disasters are about to happen. They will happen differently in each country, like I said. Because if you're going to turn a desert into a very optimal thing for producing food, that's not going to be the same kind of change that Canada will go through, or the same change that, Australia will go through. Because each country has its own geographical things and its own, climate things and its own seasons. But now you won't have seasons anymore, because seasons are because of the light and because of the angle. But if the light is no longer changing all the time, and if the angles are different in terms of the protection of the atmosphere, because the electromagnetic field of the planet is changing, and the north is no longer going to point, towards the North Pole, but actually is going to point towards Russia, then what does that mean in terms of your country? See, that's what you need to prepare for according to that. So if you believe the Bible, then you prepare according to that. If you believe the politicians, you prepare according to that. If you believe the farmers that are in your area, you do this according to that. So who do you trust the most in terms of how you're going to get your food? If you believe that there will be no trucks whatsoever, and so there will be no more food whatsoever for years, then you gotta have a plan on how to deal with that, because that's what you believe, and that might be actually what is happening. But the thing is that, like I said, food right now, as in now, up until there is actually like the optimal level, meaning we are in heaven, then food is the shadow of the elemental of money. So if you have enough money and you have enough connections, you are probably not going to struggle as much as everybody else. However, remember that the elemental of money is man created. That means that depends upon electricity, depends upon other systems that are international for banking and stuff like that. It depends upon your currency. It depends upon, cash. It depends upon, internet. It depends upon the bank's communication systems. It also can be hacked. It depends upon so many freaking things that none of them, no one, and I do mean no one, not one person can control. This is a system that depends upon a lot of people. You can have the best hacker ever, but if there is no electricity, then there is no point. You can have the best electrician people ever having the electricity, but if there is no person that hacks the system or makes the system work with the internet, then the whole thing will go down. And then if you don't have enough communications, meaning because banks do not work only on the internet, they also rely upon actual communication lines like phone lines and other things, and faxes and printed things and other things, If there is no one, that will be able to work that one out, then that system is also going to collapse. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you are preparing for food, you want to understand where are you and how is food actually coming to you. Is it all local? Is it all imported? Is it all mixed? As in, you go to a supermarket and half of it comes from, I don't know, let's say your neighboring country, and half comes from other states within your country. You don't know. There are others that are weird, and there are these countries that you don't even know where they are or stuff like that. Then you have to understand how much of your food is national, how much of it is imported, how much of it is local. And if it is not local, then how long does it take from the national food that you have to be produced in one place and then be sent to your place? Because you might be in California, but if all of the food is being produced in Florida, that is a huge distance. So again, and then, like I said, if you don't know where to start, then I suggest, like I said in other videos in these reproduction lists, start by asking any of your friends who wants to start a farm, like the project of the Netflix documental thing that says My Biggest Little Farm. Who wants to do that among your friends, or maybe yourself? And then start there. Because if you have a farm that is that big, and then you own part of that farm, or at least you are supporting it, you might be able to, play a little bit with your food supply. Because even, I have mentioned this before, even if you store food for a year, let's say that you are amazing and you have 2 years, what are you going to do in 2 years if this problem is going to be longer? Like us, we have had problems with food since, let's say, 15 years ago. So 15 years ago. We started having problems 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or whatever. Point is, it's longer than 3 years, way longer. So, can your preps survive 3 years? And that is like the bare, minimum. Because I'm thinking that most countries that go through famine, they have said that the period is roughly between 5 to 10 years. Roughly. Historically speaking, is roughly that time. So, there is no way. Unless you're telling me that you own a building, and then in the entire building you're placing food, and then you have, I don't know, that thing is like a concrete thing and nobody can blow it up and nobody can get access to that except only you, then okay. But again, if you are in that position, you're probably not listening to this channel or any channel at all, and you probably own your own channel and stuff, and you're probably even teaching people how to survive based upon preparedness with money. So the whole thing means that you gotta start thinking in terms of what your environment is, what is the problems that you are likely to face because of this change that we're going to go through so that we can get to heaven, and what do you think the political play is going to be from your leaders? See, every time that there is a thing like this, leaders will react differently. When there was a famine in China, the government started teaching people how to cook all, and I do mean all kinds of animals. And that includes rodents and dogs and everything. And they even, showed recipes, and they hired chefs all over to teach people how to cook dogs and stuff like that. So each government will react differently. In my country, they just said this is money's problems or whatever, so we're going to fix it through money. And it's kind of like how they have been doing it. And this is why Venezuela has the most whacked, out of complete insanity kind of whacked economy in the entire planet. And I do mean whacked, like beyond measured kind of whacked kind of thing. It is unbelievable. And so, each government will react differently. And, you might even have fights between politicians as to how to manage the situations. And so you will also probably have international pressure. Because if you have problems with food, how do you think people are going to feel if you are exporting the food that you are producing? Do you think that's going to happen? And then again, the person that, owns the land, or you own the money or things like that, they will want their payback, their fair share. And so at this point, it's going to be, like I said, war all over. Because, very likely China will act, and they will want their food produced by all the other countries. The other countries are not going to want to give it up, and then they will start raising taxes, and then, there may be negotiations and stuff, but at the same time, this is politics we are talking about. So the whole thing about food is never, ever, never about actual food. Because whoever controls the seeds, whoever controls the food, and whoever controls the land in which you are going to make these seeds grow, and whoever controls the water, and I don't mean any kind of water, I mean the clean water to make this happen, then that's who you're going to have ruling. And if you don't want to follow any of that, then you gotta figure out a way to create your own microsystem. And so this is important for you to understand. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, when we were going through different things, we have been creating gardens. More and more Venezuelans right now have gardens, and we exchange seeds and we exchange products from our gardens. It's kind of like a thing. So it's one thing when you trade products that are raw. Like, for example, you exchange papaya and mango to your neighbor, who gives you pumpkins and maybe cassava or something like that, because that is what they were growing. However, let's say that you have an avocado tree, and so you decided to, the avocados were already more than ripe. So you need them to be used right now. So a lot of people will be doing that. For example, they will take all the avocados and then they will make guacamole or something like that. Some people will start learning how to properly process the food so that you can conserve it for longer. So you start canning and you start doing things like that. However, not everybody is going to be able to do that because it requires the jaws, the yards, the tools, propane, fire, whatever it is that you're going to be using. It requires time and all of that. So what people will do is that they will make the guacamole and then they will give it up for everyone. So your neighbors might be knocking on your door to tell you, hey, I brought you cake. I brought you guacamole today. I brought you coconut oil because I just made some. I made this one for this, and then I made, this tomato sauce. I made that, and I made this, and then I made that, and then you're like, there is a lot of people that will not eat from other people because they are kind of like, yeah, I don't know how you made that, but I do not trust anything that it is handmade unless I made it myself. So you're going to be in an awkward position because a lot of people will be giving you these things that you didn't ask for, but they made it anyway. And they're probably going to be expecting something back. So let's say that you have a mango tree, they're probably expecting you to make jalea or jam or something. And then you are supposed to share it with them. And so now you are going to be kind of like in a hard position in terms of, the food and the relationship that you have with your neighbors and your friends and your family. Because some of them might be even trying to start a business. So they are like, I am giving you this guacamole because I'm going to start selling it. So, I gave you some so that you can try it. Yeah. And then you might be like, yeah, that thing tastes horrible. And I don't know how to tell my friend that. Because, by the way, that's how it happens here. A lot of people will be, starting to make cookies or cakes or guacamole or jams or whatever it is. And then they will be, giving you samples for free. And then, they will be expecting you to buy from them even if it is something that you do not like or something that, you just are not interested in because you already have your own mango tree or your own avocado tree or whatever it is. And so, at this point, what you can do is maybe even offer help as in, promoting these products with other friends or help the person, with the marketing. But also, you if you are too honest with the person, as in, I don't like this taste or something like that, then the person might feel offended. And then, you might end up losing that social connection because the lack of the proper words. And so you need to have ways to get out of these problems without damaging the relationship that you have with these people. Because these people are meaning well. They are trying to make a decent living and they are also helping you. And it's just that they might suck at it because they made a horrible guacamole or they make a horrible jam or their coconut oil is rancid because they don't know how to properly I don't know. So the point is that you need to consider all of your options in terms of your connections in the local thing, because the local thing might be the only thing that will be able to help you out. Because if this thing is longer than 1 or 2 years, you will need those connections, and you will also need the local production, and you will also need to know what is a local production. Because if the seeds that you have for producing are all imported and they are not local, then you will require more resources to produce the same thing. See, if I was trying to make apples, to grow apples in here, I will probably, need more water, more nutrients, more things, because apple is not something that grows in my city. It's like you going to Canada and you're trying to grow mangoes. I'm pretty sure that you might be able to do it, but it will take more resources to grow the same thing, because mangoes are not natural for Canada, for example. I'm just saying an example, okay? I'm not saying that this is whole, because there are things that you can do like hydroponics and stuff like that, but it might be a little bit different. And also, like I mentioned before, there was a prepper program in I think Prepper Doomsday or something like that. There was a program in which there was a family from California that were able to grow more than 1,000 pounds of vegetables per year, but they were working, I think 6 hours a day, every day, and they were a family of 4 or 5 people. I can't remember. But the point is that they were doing this almost as a full-time job, and they were able to produce their own food. So it is doable. It's just that it will take time, it will take resources, it will take skills, it will take planning, and it will take money, because gardening is a skill that requires money. Because you will need to buy several things. Even if you recycle a lot, and even if you get a lot of things that, might be gifts for neighbors and everything, you will still need to buy certain things. And it's not expensive. It's not the most expensive thing, but it's fairly not cheap. Especially if you have to buy the seeds all over, all the time, because for whatever reason, whatever you tried to grow didn't grow, and then you have to try something else because the land did not work, or because the weather wasn't the proper, or because you didn't know that you had to do it with the moon cycles, or because you didn't know that there are certain plants that will not grow unless you have both the male and the female plant and stuff like that. So it's going to be a trip. And that's why you want to do a lot of research. That's why you need to know your environment, among all the things. And you need to know your leaders, among all things. And you need to know your situation, because nobody can prepare the same way. Because like I said, there are families that will have people that have allergies. There are families that will have people that have intolerances. So you can't have certain things in the food, or there are people that that they are like in the need of a special food because they are sick and stuff like that. So I don't know. So anyway, I hope this information was helpful to a point. And I hope that that you do your own research a little bit, and at least this points you out to the right direction. And remember, it's a choice. Even in the Bible says that it's a choice. So keep your eyes always in the price. The price being that we are going to go through this and we are going to get better. And there are dark times, but it's very dark before it gets the sun out. Before the sunrise is usually very, very dark. But the sun always comes, unless, unless we are in the freaking apocalypse thing, and then there is several days of darkness or whatever. But anyway, thank you for watching, and take care.